Greetings and welcome back to a supporter stream. That's right, folks. We are going to be talking about the curious decline of the Go, Godot. There it is. Hopefully, I speak the name correctly throughout the term here. Of course, this topic can lend itself towards political things, but we are going to be as apolitical as conceivably possible. So we just want to kind of address what are the facts and what should we do about it as a community of people interested in software first and foremost, because everyone has different opinions and thoughts. So, but we're going to get to that, of course. Before we get any further, of course, as you saw from the Kitty View, the new book Code Red is available on Amazon now. I've not yet got it on my own personal bookstores. If you're holding out for that, it will be. I will probably not have time to get it done before the news tomorrow, to be honest. I got to run to town tomorrow and take care of errands tomorrow because we got a football game on Saturday again. So can't take care of that on football days, weekends. But I will get it on my personal stores. I'm going to put it on my publishing store, and that's the only place I'm going to put it. So if you want to pick it up directly from me, you can. Of course, that will be up on pre-orders until I get it. If you order it from Amazon, it's ready to ship now. Of course, the Kindle and the paperback version of the book are there. I am going to put in a substantial discount if you want to buy it directly from me for the supporters. That will be posted as soon as I have it up. And I'm trying to decide if I want to get the audiobook up before I do that or not. So I don't have the... obviously, most of the stores are done on the audiobook. However, not all of them are. There's still a couple of, like all the stories are done, but the front matter, the back matter, I still need to record and or edit any of those. Of course, if you are interested in the book, I will drop the link here in the respective chats. So we'll go ahead and drop that in for everybody. Of course, I do realize not everybody likes to buy from Amazon. If that is you and you want to hold out for other places, it will have a massive distribution. Anywhere you can buy books online, it will eventually get there. I need to wait for the proofs to come in for the massive distributor that puts it everywhere other than Amazon. I need to wait for that to come in, which hopefully I'll get that tomorrow. As soon as I get that, I will review it and push the button, causing it to go live within everybody within a week or less. Amazon, though, is ready to go, and as soon as I have my own personal copies, I'll let you guys know. I am going to order a bunch of copies. If anybody wants to shoot me an email, hey, I plan on ordering one directly from you, I'll order extras. But typically, it doesn't work. It's not the best selling them directly from me. It's cheaper usually. You get it directly from me. However, not a lot of people buy off of small stores. I completely understand that's why they are.
You should sign them if they're coming from your store.
I can. Yeah, I mean, I can certainly do that if you're doing that. I generally don't, just because not everybody wants that. Curiously, most people do, but not.
It's only a suggestion.
So maybe I have the option to have, here's a order note. If you want it signed, leave an order note in there, and I can sign them. That's cool. But yes, Code Red, it is available. This is, of course, the collection of short stories that we did for the Patreon supporters last year. So those are all now collected into this book. So if you want to get a chance to read those or have a copy of all those in one place, that's where they are. Of course, Season 2 has started. If you guys did not already see it, the first story of this year is already posted on all the supporter networks, and the audiobook download expires at the end of the month on October 31st. So if you did not already download that, go ahead and download that if you are a supporter. And of course, you can read chapter 1 to see if you want to support over on Locals, is the only place I can set it to read only, or like display only part of it. Anyway, there is that. You guys have anything before we get started here?
Not really.
No.
Yeah, okay, sweet. I'm going to pop out the chats here. I forgot to do that earlier. And that way I can see at least 2 of the 3 chats as we go. if Odyssey doesn't 404 on me again. There we go. All right, it worked.
Yeah, I was
Odyssey 404 on me the one time. So, all right, let me go ahead and grab that, put it there, and we'll go ahead and have a look at some chats, and then we will dive on into our topic and see how an open source project might collapse. I can't see the first comment up there. Must be Ivan's. I don't know. What comes around goes around at Godot. That's right. Well, that's the thing. These people, you open up a can of worms, you're going to eat the consequences. That's right. How to eat fried can of worms. Let's see. The reason I'm using LGPL components to build my custom programs for the next Linux distro. Not have to read any source code. They cannot get to it. Well, I mean, if the problem though of not revealing any source code is that we don't know what you're really doing in there. So, yeah. Working on the piece of software that will allow Christians to keep Bible tracks with ease and fast. Yeah. Hello, War Thunder. Greetings to you. Hello, Nelson. We got Techno-Minded. KO2610. Your number has been called. Nelson Mitchell. Greetings to you. Noonie. Hello. Bob Gonson, you are now honor-bound to create your own Godot fork named to go. Don't go. I don't know. Hey, if I knew anything about gaming or programming, I might think about it. But I'm just an outsider looking in with some commentary and experience in the world here. So, Raylib is an alternative free open source. Yes, there's a few options out there. Bring it to Barnes & Noble would be nice if they're still around. So, yeah, I will be listed on Barnes & Noble. Now, the thing about publishing books, you can't, like, unless you're a top seller, you don't put a book into the distribution network and Barnes & Noble will go, oh, let's just grab these random books. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of books are published every month. They can't do that. They only buy and stock books in the physical stores that they know are going to sell based on marketing data, which excludes me from getting in there because I don't bother even trying to get into the store. But you can walk into a local Barnes & Noble and order one of my books and have it shipped to the store. They can do that. But yeah. So let's see. No progress sharing data with you. Just careful who I share it with. Well, if you're not sharing the data, if you're only selectively sharing the data, you're not open source. You got to be aware of the licensing of that. Over on Odyssey, what do we got? We got 29 on Zatubis. We got 9 over on Odyssey. Rideau, Christoph is arrived. Good evening to you. Sci-fi, I don't know the theme. So much not into the theme, it seems. Not so much into it. Hey, that's cool. So the basic theme of this, so with my book Co-Read here, every story, it's 10 short stories. It's based on the stories from the supporters last year. And it's 10 short stories all related on modern trends in technology, things that are actually happening, things that are actually being used. So we had a story on cars communicating with each other and negative consequences of that. We talked about the consequences of the Vietnamese biometric ID system, which they have implemented as of this year, and how that can be abused for negative work. So it basically just goes through a lot of modern day tech, real things that are really going on, and how they have a great effect, potential of being abused. And that's kind of, it's a book of warning more than anything else.
Don't be a victim.
That's kind of what it's about. Can't watch through the app that shall not be named. Why not, man? Right. We are streaming in multiple different places. It's the political moment that they used the pride flag. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe. We'll get into that. They rectified it with a German pride flag. Okay. We got 13 over on Rumble, which doesn't say Rumble at the top of the thing. It says Premium. I guess it's premium.com now. I don't know. Okay, greetings to you. Yay, football. That's right. That's what I'm saying, you know. It's like I keep up on when and where the games are just so I know when I have to do my errands. Pretty cheap anyway, so I'm going to have to check one out. Yeah, there you go. All right, let's go ahead and dive on into our data. You guys have anything to add before we get into this?
Nothing here.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started. This will be fun. So, if you're unaware, there was a massive explosion of Godot that kept me up until 4 in the morning reading the fascinating exchanges on Reddit. This was sent over on the server. I was just about to close up, and so he drops an interesting looking video, and I said, fun. So I go over there, and and I leave a message over there on Matrix, like, I'm going to watch this video and go to sleep. That was about 1. 4:30. Shut the system down because I got into not only watching the video, but then that led me over to actually research a little what's going on. I found the Reddit thread, and I read through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments. Kind of did the same thing last night, reading all the comments on Styx Hexenhammer's arrest. Like we've been watching that guy descend for a while. I liked his political commentary, kind of like Zig Ziglar, right? I get up every morning to read the newspaper and the Bible. That way I know what both sides are doing. Yeah. Watch Styx to see what the demonic world is doing. The demonic world is spending a week in jail. All right. So, anyway, so I get into reading all this kind of stuff, and it's just like, it goes into the nonsense of these code of conducts. Now, we see a lot of these code of conducts. Usually these are all forked from one code of conduct, which is trying to be a full-fledged inclusive conduct. And the challenge with the inclusive conduct is it is political. They don't even realize it's political, and the politicalness that it is by its very nature exclusionary. Now, it doesn't have to be that way, and it doesn't even have to be interpreted that way, but that's where it goes because of the people who hold the beliefs that they hold, which they put in specific levels in these companies. So looking, though, at this, and I did want to cover just a few points in the code of conduct, of course. Again, this is the basic code of conduct that is effectively the same one with GNOME, and we know how that's going. The same way with Nix, we know how that's going. If you're not following what's going on with the COC work of these companies, it is not necessarily the most positive application, particularly if your intention is to keep your project alive and moving forward. So they have expectations. Politeness is expected at all times. Okay. Assume positive intent from others. This is key and will be key coming back to in this discussion. They say that you assume a positive intent from others. Even if you get something and it could come off as negative to you, you should assume it's positive, is what they're saying here. Feedback is welcome, but keep your criticism constructive. That's going to come back in this. Okay, so in other words, yes, we want feedback, but make sure it's constructive. In other words, don't say, you're an idiot. Say, I don't think that was a valid choice because, the I feel statements, I think most of us are at least aware of that. There's restricted context here. Most of these are fairly self-explanatory. Again, we do want to bring together a few different things. I got to find one. This one here particularly will be important. Likewise, any spamming, trolling, flaming, baiting, or otherwise attention-stealing behavior is not welcome and will result in exclusion from the community. Okay, so if you're spamming, obviously. If you're trolling, okay. Flaming, baiting, otherwise attention stealing. In other words, doing things to draw attention away from the foundation and the focus of the project. That is what they are suggesting. Aggressive or offensive behavior, obviously. You'll be excluded from the community if you insult, demean, harass, intentionally make others feel uncomfortable by any means, or participate in any hateful conduct. This one here is really the trap by which they can use to exclude a lot of people, because this in and of itself is an interesting term, because if I want to just sit here and work on a gaming engine and you want to push a political agenda, if I say I want to get back to focusing on the gaming engine, not focus on a political agenda, there is a group of people that believes, and I'm not saying it's all people of one side, I'm saying there are a group of people who, for whatever reason, perceive anything that doesn't want to perpetually talk about their individual proclivities is complete hate mongering. And that is ridiculous. And anybody that takes that view should be excluded from a project because, seeing back to this one down here, they are clearly engaging in attention stealing behavior or baiting behavior or things like that. There is reporting a breach. You have to go to the Code of Conduct team. And here is the Code of Conduct team. We have the members. We have the pronouns. We have where they are moderators of, and we have the languages that they speak. So that is the basics of the Code of Conduct. Are we good so far? Anything we need to discuss before we move further?
No, it's kind of like the mission statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The rules of the game.
So if you have no idea what's been happening, this article here from the Tribune was the best overall breakdown. Okay, you gotta pay attention. This is nuts. So, they say the article here, Godot, quote, woke controversy explained. The game engine faces backlash after its moderator censored users who criticized woke post on social media. It could have been better written. Community manager went psychopathic and started mass banning everybody. We were talking the original developer, I believe, was banned. Platinum supporters of the project were banned. Senior level coders of the project were banned. I'm not sure there's anybody that wasn't banned. Honestly,
I wasn't.
It turned into a giant block fest. And so this is the game engineer. Her, I think it's her. I don't know. This person's name is Nat. And the challenge is I was not able to find it again. I read it the other night because I read every line for line on Reddit. But understand, there were hundreds of posts.
The tree kept on going.
Okay. It kept on going. They were warned about the behavior of Nat several months ago privately. And they just don't care. So Nat actually goes by murder veggie or murder veggies or murder vegetables or something like that. So who would think that a community manager that is officially the employee managing your stuff called murder veggies would actually go crazy and start abusing the ban button? But that's exactly what happened. So what happened effectively is, in some other thread somewhere else on Twitter, this person here, Christophe Vigeant, whatever this guy's name is, he says, it makes sense, doesn't it? Woke studios always use pre-built engines to make games because they can't build their own engines. Okay, now, so he says that woke studios always use these engines. That's not necessarily a fair thing to state their motives, because a lot of people would use engines. It's the same reason you use a CMS instead of coding an entire website completely ground up for yourself every single time. You use a core that is there. You know, video gaming itself is extremely complicated. Trust me, I know my brother, I'm not a gamer, but my brother is actually a video game developer. All right. He has actually provided assets for a number of projects. And looking at some of the things they have to work with, you know, he can spend months just building tiny assets, and then somebody else takes the assets, puts them into storylines, and somebody else has to take the storylines and run it into some form of gaming engine. There's Unity, there's Godot, and then there's a bunch of other ones. And effectively, this takes care of a lot of the back-end kind of stuff that you otherwise would have to program manually. So it's a way to do it. So this guy, who probably is some genius developer who can build a game in his sleep with his own custom engine, makes a statement. Okay, whatever. But nevertheless, he is joking on Twitter. It's Twitter. What are you expecting? Perfect genteel conversations. Have you spent time on Twitter? You know? So this person, Natalie, Nat the dev, this is not the same Nat. I don't think it's the same Nat. Says, sorry, fellow devs. I guess game engines are woke. Okay, great. But then the official Godot engine Twitter account posts this on September 22nd. Quote, apparently game engines are woke now. Well then, we won't complain. Rainbow emoji. Show us your woke hot games below. And so we have a finger pointing down below. Now, the problem is that this is the official Godot Twitter account, which is supposed to be giving you updates on the project. This is not an update on the project. This is a person getting mad about something on Twitter and saying, okay, guys, we're woke. So what happened is a whole lot of people started coming in and actually not being abusive. I have not seen a single account of anybody being abusive. If you got it, I would like to see it. It was a lot of people that said, hey, we should be focusing on gaming engines and not focusing on politics. For that comment, anybody liking that comment, reposting that comment, saying that comment is blocked. I don't know why this page keeps on reloading itself, but it does. So if it keeps jumping back to the top like that, that's the thing is reloading. So the controversy deepened when reports emerged that users who criticized the post were banned from the unofficial Godot-related Discord channels by the moderator Xanax. So somebody's name who is derived from a neuropsychotic drug. Okay. This guy writes, Koshner of the Red Pill, why are transes taking over such things? Godot engine leadership so violent, normal people don't make knives and murder parts of their bios. Yeah, so Murder Veggie is Nat's official. Goes by she and they. So, okay, so I guess she or they is appropriate, according to this person. So, then what ends up happening is they just started doing this mass blocking. Now, there were two issues going on, and a lot of the reports that didn't follow this closely got the two muddled. One of these is the mass banning going on Twitter, which was from their official Twitter account. The other one was this Discord server. Now, there are two Discord servers associated to Godot. One of those is the quote-unquote official, and one of those is not the official. However, it was the official until only a few months ago. The lead moderator on the one that is now unofficial is a crazy psycho. Now, people did unearth these old tweets from 8 years ago with lots of hard N-words in here. Snows, stands, all sorts of stuff, S-words, so all sorts of crazy stuff. Now, those were from 8 years ago. This person is young. They were probably a teenager. Okay, I don't really care what they did 8 years ago, necessarily. But what happened this week was this over on X. So from Pirate Nation, this is the same person. This is the moderator responding that day. You have no right of speech here because I consider your speech to be toxic vomit. If you think inviting queer people to share their games of politics, you're a toxic piece of blank word and evil human being. I want you to feel disrespected and to blank off as fast as you can. And then there's this other unhinged tirade over here that I'm not going to read because the text is entirely too small. So you see that that person is clearly a hinged person. That is the official moderator. Now, what ended up happening then is they come out, Godot comes out, the foundation comes out with a couple of statements, and their statements themselves, they did not accept any specific responsibility. They never acknowledged that their community manager, their official employee community manager, went psychopathic and started banning everybody. They did have, however, alleged that they, in response to the tweet, they received a barrage of hate. No, they received a barrage of people saying, stop focusing on politics and let's get back to doing gaming engineering stuff. But they also released a second one trying to distance themselves from Xanax, saying that this is an unofficial, unrelated Discord server. However, the official, unrelated Discord server is still listed on their website. And I think that do they just have a bad website? I can't see their specific page again. Yeah, hold on. Might need to expand that out. Oh, no, it's under the community tab up here. I got to find it up here. If you go into the community tab, the official communities, this is their official Discord. Down here, the unsupported user communities. This is the Discord server down here, featured prominently on their website that Xananex is still the senior moderator for. And so we have a lot of crazy going on. They are not acknowledging any wrongdoing. They're not saying, hey, we did this wrong. They are apparently just standing 100% behind their employee. That's what they're doing. And then, of course, trying to distance themselves from this unofficial Discord server, which was their official Discord server until just a couple of months ago, when a new person had taken over. Maybe it was a year ago, but it was very, very recent. The one that Xananex is still in charge of was the official Discord server for a while. Okay, that'd be kind of like our Switch to Linux Matrix server. If I create a new one and then you're like, and then, I leave and, Ivan goes crazy or something, starts posting weird crap. And then I'm just like, oh, he's not associated with us. Yeah, but he's been associated since we had the thing going, So that's literally the thing. So they are literally completely ignoring the entire factor. Okay, so this is somebody pointing out that, yes, that unofficial server is now it's unofficial, even though it's still linked prominently on their webpage. Kind of like the Manjaro has community builds of Manjaro, right? So now the problem is, if you were banned and you think you are not banned, you need to dox yourself to the crazy group of people that wants to ban you, that clearly hates you. So you have to fill out a Gmail form that required you to log into your Google account and share your Google details with the company. Now, it's possible to do a Google form without having to sign into your Google account. It's possible to do it fairly anonymously, at least anonymous to the receiver of the form. They chose not to do that. So anybody that wants to request to be unblocked, they have to fill out this form doxing who they are and their email address to a bunch of people that, in my opinion, may not have it mentally together, because they clearly did something wrong and they are not willing in any way, shape, or form to take responsibility. All right. And then what ends up happening is long-term supporters were also blocked from GitHub, meaning that the people who have donated to the project and submitted code to the project can no longer submit code to the project. I wish Salby was here, unless he jumped on and I didn't notice, because he could tell us a little bit more about the licensing. I was pretty sure that if somebody wanted to pull all of their code from a project, they could take their code and leave. If that is true, I'm not a licensed guy, but if that is true, if I'm remembering that correctly, thank you, Paige, for reloading again. If that is true, every person who's been blocked should take their code and walk away. That's what they should do. Because these are actual financial supporters, code supporters, who now cannot get into the system and actually do anything. So let's see. Godot is blocking devs on Twitter. They're blocking them on GitHub, preventing them from getting engine updates. The open source engine, more like closed to own the chuds, is what this guy says. So while the Godot Foundation has promised to review its moderation process and correct any errors, criticism of the handling of the situation and its treatment of supporters continues. I think that was the tweet we were looking at. So It's FOSS had this one here, Go Woke, Get Forked. So we actually, in response to all this Godot nonsense, a group of people who were actually banned from the project are like, let's just fork this thing and go elsewhere. And so that's what they did. So they posted, they created one, and it was, I think theirs was called Redo, I think. So this is mostly a summary of what happened again. So this is called Redo. So they basically forked it, and it's a work in progress. They only have 4 people. Now, usually these reactionary forks don't live long. We can think there was one that forked GIMP, saying GIMP is an offensive name. And I don't even remember the name of their new project.
Audacity was forked, and those forks kind of faded away or never got popular.
Yeah. So that's true, and that's probably a chance it happens. However, what's encouraging about this one is in 3 days, with 4 people, their Discord server is up to 4,000 or 2,000 or 4,000 people in it. They already have thousands of people following what they're doing. And they already have people saying, how can we financially support you? And they're like, hey, we're just getting started. We're not taking money yet. They're working on everything. They're releasing things under MIT. Actually, they say MIT license here. There was one folder that was under MIT license. Most of the rest of it was under a CC3 license, if I remember correctly, over on GitHub. But they did actually already have somebody that I think was from the Godot Foundation went over and tried to spam bot their server. You know, they're like, you don't like what we do, fork your own. Okay, we forked our own. We're going to stop you from being here. Which is one of the challenges of what's going on here. And so if you dig in, this one here, hold on, I want to go to this one first because this one's shorter. This is not anything new. This person here, this happened a while back, of course, but this guy actually reported that he was actually banned from Godot a while ago for a game that he made. Now, the game they made, and he has a 5-minute video here explaining it. So the name of his video is Right Wing Games Banned from Godot. So what this game was, and because they said, well, we're banning the game because you're, basically the furries were the bad guys. Now, in his game, the furries, he wasn't killing furries for the sake of killing furries. He was getting the furries because they stole all the nuclear weapons, and in the game you had to get your nuclear weapon stockpile back from furries. Okay. So here you go.
That's it. You're going in the doghouse.
I don't know. Not exactly my type of game, but he does have this interesting game, and apparently he's he's battling the furries who stole the nuclear arsenal or whatever else. And so he explains in here that he does the game, and he's not disparaging of anybody. It's just a comical joke. An old school type of 90s comical joke. We were discussing a film that I'm not sure I can say the words for over here on the Tubies. Something about people from outer space, And,
It almost looks like a phone game.
Yeah, pretty much. But they basically cite the code of conduct that you're not allowed to have a game like this. Now, is a game like this where your task is to go around and beat up all the furries pushing the envelope? It might be. I'm open to that discussion.
Okay, let's look at games in general. Almost all the games, or at least 75% of them, have a good aspect to them and a bad aspect to them, and you have to overcome the bad aspect to actually. That's why they call it a boss fight when you go to do a fight in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Most games are based on this.
Yeah.
And this is no different. You're just beating up the furries to get to the world to a safer place.
Yeah, I guess the challenge is that they're saying that the furry is the protected class, and because the furry is the protected class, you can't possibly have a video game where you're beating them up. It's almost like, here's a fun if you're watching mystery movies or something, and you're trying to figure out who the bad guy is. Apple, you are allowed to use Apple in a movie, but a bad guy may not use an Apple device. So if you're watching a mystery movie trying to figure out who the bad guy is, it's not the guy with the Apple device. Apple will not allow a production to carry on with their product if the bad guy is using Apple. And so usually what you'll notice, this is why a lot of shows, if they're using them at all, a lot of shows are using customized Linux computers for most of the things they're doing.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, we don't want to deal with any of the licensing. Let's just install this Linux distro, give it a cool new theme, and call it good, That way we don't have to worry about muddling who's who and who's good and who's bad. Well, it's the same kind of thing. Well, you can't have a furry game that the furries are being beaten up. I'll bet if his game was a bunch of furries beating up a bunch of MAGA hat wearing guys, they'd be like, this is awesome, because despite their attempts to try and be inclusive of everybody, they're not particularly inclusive, as can be tell by going on a mass banning spree when people are simply saying, hey, we should focus on game development.
They're using their thinking to make the furries actually the good guys out of the story, which is kind of handicapping the game.
Yeah. But anyway, they go in here and
someone else invents the furries for the game.
Yeah,
he's the creator. It should be his decision what the furries are supposed to do.
Well, the problem though is that in the real world that you have real world furries, which are fairly not directly related, but closely associated with the LGBT movement, depending on which direction you're going with. So,
yeah, those are the same ones that want us to eat all vegetables.
Including murdering the veggies. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, so from the Godot Foundation itself, of course, we have the thing again. Here's actually what they wrote. Let me go ahead and read that. We brushed by it before. Let me actually read it now. I can actually read it on the screen. On Friday, we made a tweet that unexpectedly led to a wave of harassment directed at our staff and community, which is a bunch of bullcrap. No, they made a tweet which violated their own code of conduct. Okay, well, shall we refresh on their code of conduct? Of course, I have to find their code of conduct again. There it is. Okay, their tweet, the tweet which they made, which is this tweet here. Apparently, game engines are woke now. Well, then, we won't complain. Show us your woke games below. In their code of conduct, remember, any spamming, trolling, flaming, baiting, or other attention-stealing behavior is not welcome and will result from the exclusion of the community. You're telling me that it is not flaming or baiting to put that tweet on your official Twitter page? What did you expect was going to happen? Your community manager is violating your own code of conduct. This should be grounds for termination. It's what it is. Anyway, because they have not been able to demonstrate any harassment. We actually see what some of these comments are down below. It's like, hey guys, focus on the game. Stop injecting politics. We don't care about any of that. Let's just focus on making video games. Let's fix the bitmap image handling inside of the game engine. That's the type of comments they got. These are not harassment comments. They're not directed at people. They're not hate. They're not anger. But if you happen to be a person, in fact, I think somebody made a comment down here, which was excellent. I wish I remembered to highlight it because it was just such a perfect comment. Oh man, I wish I grabbed a copy of it. Because it basically was saying that if you're these people involved in this mass banning, they think they're right so much that they are not even willing to tolerate opposing viewpoints. And that, I think, is part of the problem. I wish I had saved that exact comment. But anyway, we unequivocally condemn this abuse. And I'm sure they got one or two people that dropped a hard GF word over there or said something bad. I'm sure there's probably one or two, but the vast majority of people, in fact, there were some people that weren't even actually involved in the discussions. They just had a comment somewhere on the board somewhere, and the person apparently just went crazy, just bam, 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 bam. The person went nuts. All right. The volume of negative engagement overwhelmed our moderation efforts. Actually, the same moderator, Nat, the person up here, this person decided to start making a folder and collecting all of the various comments Nat had seen. So clearly Nat was not overwhelmed. So, okay, Nat, you now have a folder of all of these hateful comments. I'm going to call on the Godot team to take that folder and release it completely to the public. Put a warning or a trigger warning on it, whatever. I want to see all of these hateful comments that were directed towards your team. I want to see them for myself because I don't believe you. I believe that Nat grabbed a bunch of comments that Nat didn't like because Nat is of a personal mindset that cannot tolerate people disagreeing with Nat's opinion. I think that that's what Nat has a folder of. I am going to call on the Godot Foundation to take that folder of collected things and release it to the public. I want to see all these hateful comments because there aren't any. I mean, there's probably one or two, but there is not this overwhelming amount of things. And if you're a community manager, you have to have thick skin. You have to look at something and go, it kind of bothers me, but it doesn't actually violate the terms of our community. You gotta have integrity. You can't be like, that bothers my soul. I disagree with you. You're a MAGA guy. You can't do that. All right. Anyway, while attempting to protect the Godot community, we mistakenly blocked individuals who are not participating in the harassment. You did not mistakenly block anybody. You had a person who went mentally insane. The Godot Foundation board takes full responsibilities for these moderation actions, but we're not going to fire anybody. Okay. If you believe you were blocked in error and have not violated our code of conduct, please contact us with the form linked below. That's the form that requires you to dox yourself. We are committed to swiftly rectifying any mistakes, except we will not fire the person who went mentally insane and started blocking all of our financial supporters. So we firmly stand by our mission to keep our community spaces free from hate, discrimination, and other toxic behaviors. Yeah, you need to get rid of your community moderator. The community moderator was warned about several times. That is the same exact text down below. And then, no, don't do that. The second one here is the statement on Xanax. We strongly condemn the harmful language used by Xanax, moderator of an unofficial Godot-related server. They failed to mention that was the official server until very recently, and that server is still listed as a prominent spot directly on their website for getting support for the project, and that person is the senior moderator of that forum and has been for a long time. Wanted to clarify that he is not hired by nor a spokesman for the foundation. He just manages the server that was official. As an organization, we have our own official Discord server moderated together with new volunteers. And the one video I was watching, all of the mods on the one server are also mods on the other server. So what does that tell you? I think there's at least 50% overlap, to be directly specific. So, yeah, be sure not to violate the code of conduct in discussing this heated topic. Yeah. So this guy says, I didn't know they had an official server. When news about the Discord server becoming the Godot Cafe and unofficial, I checked for the official servers and found none. So it's apparently linked on the webpage, but you can't find it. Same, I assume they're currently closed for new people during the drama. The invite link on the official website is invalid. Okay. Does indeed. They locked it down with all this, though. Luckily, I pinned the day before it happens. So, now, obviously, we're not going to go into all of this. This is the official tweet. It was referencing this other tweet. So this is where we have some muddling that they were trying and steer everything towards the comments of Xanax. No, the real problem was what happened on the official Twitter page. That was, and the GitHub page. That was, and if Xanax is not involved in any way with those, well, then you need to explain how all these people got blocked from GitHub and Twitter. And then, of course, you can read through this, and it is just a fascinating read. It will take you hours, trust me. And this guy here got to the heart of it here. This response is really dishonest. It frames the situation as though the majority of people who got blocked by the official Twitter account were various harassers, with a few innocent people caught in the crossfire. In reality, the situation was the exact opposite. The overwhelming majority of responses that got blocked were simply people reasonably objecting to the official engine account, getting involved with socio-political and culture war related matters, arguing that the official engine should focus exclusively on the engine itself. It also came to light that the official account had also blocked people who had never even interacted with it. One of those blocked was a developer who became well known after being subjected to a harassment campaign by LGBT activists. So a developer that is being involved in a harassment campaign with LGBT activists. I wish we knew somebody that was involved, that knew what that was like. All right. Putting these facts together, there's significant evidence to suggest that the block spree against innocent people was not a mistake, but intentional and ideologically motivated. And this response from the Godot Foundation makes it sound like they are making excuses for a community manager abusing the official Godot engine account as a vehicle for her own ideology. An ideology which, as demonstrated by the blocking spree, mandates exclusion of anyone who objects to it in any way. There is no way to manage an open and inclusive community. Yeah. So there's a little bit more. If you dig in a little bit deeper, some people were highlighting some of these specifics of the of what was wrong with their code of conduct. So this is it. We see the departure from culture, war, identity, politics, topic, and official channels. Will we see the departure from culture, war, identity, politics, topics, and official channels? As Juan Wisey said, it's unnecessarily divisive. This guy says, true, it's against their own code of conduct, too. And of course, they note the same one I said. Any spamming, trolling, flame behavior, attention-stealing behavior is not welcome and result from exclusion. For certainty, any conduct which could be reasonably considered inappropriate in a professional setting is not acceptable. The original tweet is arguably baiting, attention-seeking, and definitely inappropriate in a professional setting. That is why people's response is a mess. Here is what is it Dragonaurus 92 says. Godot should not comment or talk about anything that is not directly related to the Godot itself. It is unprofessional, has no benefit at all. It only invites drama. Mods should not block or mute or whatever when it is not directly attacking anyone or any specific group. Otherwise, it looks like mods are trying to control public opinions and censor individuals. Mod interaction should always be the last resort. If someone is writing in offensive manner, maybe try please write more respectfully before blocking them. If you are overwhelmed, relax. Nobody's going to die because a hateful comment is public for an hour. As for what Godot should do about this specific, number one, say, sorry, we made a mistake and overreacted. And that what you have written here reads more like I am the victim and I see no error in my actions, but bend over and make people shut up. Number two, remove the problematic Twitter post. And it is still up, by the way. This guy says, I have no idea if it's still up. It is still up. And promise not to repeat the same mistake. 3, publicly remove mod rights from those who blocked like crazy or acted in unprofessional any other ways. 4, unblock everybody that got blocked after the tweet went public. If you unblock bad actors in the process, they will show up again and you can block them when they do. But expecting good people to beg for an unblock is unacceptable. We all love Godot and want to see it grow and shine, and we do not want to see its reputation tarnished, and that's why people are so heated about the topic. The more someone loves something, the stronger their voice when something goes wrong. I know when to protect your mods. You gave them mod rights because you trust them, but as an organization, you are not allowed to be like that. I have trusted people with mod rights in the past and got burned hard. If there is even a slight issue, don't be afraid to let them go. It's not worth the risk. One rotten apple ruins the whole pie. I'm not going to read any more of these, but it is a fascinating read through. And you will find in here that they have been directly warned about this moderator in the past for being inappropriate and unprofessional in other settings. You'll read several other instances, a lot of good takes on that. There's nothing in here that's directly hateful by any form of objective standard. So that's kind of where we're looking at. You guys have any thoughts on that so far?
Nothing here.
I don't know. It just sounds like an organization where things took a wrong turn for the wrong reason.
Yeah. I guess one of the biggest takeaways is going back to the 80s and 90s with Michael Jordan. You know, he had the Air Jordan shoes, which are popular. Were those Nike shoes, I think?
Yes.
So they had the Air Jordans, the pump shoes, everyone wanted them. They were outrageously expensive. And
Yeah, you got mugged on the street if you were wearing a pair.
well,
Yeah.
you would today. I mean, back then it was a lot calmer. Okay. But there were people that wanted him to take political sides and to endorse particular political candidates even back then. And Michael Jordan said no, because, Republicans wear shoes too, and Democrats wear shoes too. It doesn't matter, He understood completely that it's possible to live your life and not publicly make every bit of politics aware. And that's what we're seeing in this circumstance. When they are injecting politics, and they say there's nothing political about this. Yes, it is. It is an inherently political issue. If you start pushing these types of things, you're going to get messed up. Of course, the Redo engine is one of the ones that was forked out of this. They're gaining a lot of ground. We've already mentioned that. Now, one of the challenges is this type of code of conduct is the same type of code of conduct that we find in GNOME and in Nix and several other projects in the Linux community, which means that it is very possible that GNOME Foundation could pop off on this exact same type of thing. It depends on who they have as moderators. We know that they will completely ban you immediately if you mention the Voldemort of Linux, Brian Lunduke himself. The mere mention of his name inside of a GNOME project asset will get you banned, which is ridiculously stupid. Whether you like the guy or not, you cannot deny the fact that he has a long-running respected, or at least used to be respected, journalist in the Linux community, and the only thing that changed is a political narrative has entered the scene, and as far as I can tell, he hasn't changed his viewpoints. He's covered more of that type of stuff, but that's because there's more of that type of stuff to cover in this field that he is an expert in. I mean, what more do you want, But if we can't sit down and recognize that we have different opinions. I'm from an era where if you talk about anything remotely sexual, it's called sexual harassment. Why are we sitting here talking about, who you like to go to bed with and who your sexual proclivities are? We shouldn't be talking about any of that in the public sphere in any way, shape, or form. And so since the entirety of this movement is about that, it's not something that should be brought up in the public sphere, particularly using public resources. And that's the challenge that we have. And so borrowing from Brian Lunduke, speaking of him earlier, he made a comment on a code of conduct that he thought was perfect. And this is Ladybird. So the Ladybird project is trying to become a new web engine. So we're trying to have a third web engine. Of course, right now, well, technically we have three. But we have the Mozilla web engine, we have WebKit, and we have the Chromium web engine. WebKit, of course, is Apple. Nobody uses it but Apple, to my knowledge. So we effectively have two in the basic sphere market. We have a Chromium-based, we have a Mozilla-based browser. Mozilla's going insane. They are not going to survive if they don't stop this type of stuff that Godot is kind of doing. They need to stop going insane. Because if they die, and they are on life support from Google anyway, but if Google decides to take them off of life support, we will be left with one engine, Chromium. Ladybird is trying to be a new engine, so we are getting, hopefully, another option. This is their code of conduct. It is extraordinarily short. It is inclusive of everybody. Number one, participants will be tolerant of opposing views. Okay? It's not about protected groups. Dude, if you are that in need of protection over an internet connection, you should find something else to do. Okay? But we have to recognize I can be here talking to somebody who is of the LGBT community or an ally or gay or straight. It doesn't matter to me. I can sit here. I could have one of you guys on the topic. We can get along perfectly fine as long as we agree to disagree on the things that are not important for the current point of discussion. We're talking about making a gaming engine. We're talking about making a gaming engine. There's nothing involved in sexuality in any of that. 'that. 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 you know. Be tolerant of opposing views. Whether you're right-wing, be tolerant of left-wing views. If you're left-wing, be tolerant of right-wing views. If you cannot be tolerant, you got to find something else to do. Number 2, participants must ensure their language and actions are free of personal attacks and disparaging personal remarks. Don't say, you're stupid. Say, I don't think that's the best approach. Here is an example as to why. I feel statements. Number 3, when interpreting words and actions, participants should assume good intentions. That's where Godot went wrong. They assumed everybody that disagreed with them about the wokeness in the game engines was immediately some right-wing Nazi. We got to ban the dude. Ban, 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 because they violated their own code of conduct that says you should assume that somebody is being positive, even if you think it might be interpreted the other way. That's what they say. Interpreting the words and actions of others should always assume good intentions. If you think it's not good intentions, ask and clarify why. Maybe you will help the person to learn how to write in softer language, which is a plus. And then number 4, behavior that can be reasonably considered harassment will not be tolerated. Okay, what can be reasonably considered harassment? Is it, I'm sorry, I don't agree with the LGBT lifestyle, let's get away from this and start making the game engine again? That is not harassment. If you think that's harassment, you are the one who needs to leave the project. Not the guy who says something like, let's not worry about that type of stuff, let's get back to focusing on the project again. Okay? That's the thing. Now, if somebody jump on the camera and they got purple hair, I like the guy's got purple hair, that can be problematic. But I don't see a ton of that going on, at least not in polite company. We might do that amongst our friends. That doesn't mean that we are evil or bad or racist people. We're just sick of the nonsense being injected in every type of the world, and among safe company, we might get a laugh out of it. Because you may or may not know how unhinged you are, but you are. So that is effectively what I have for today. That was kind of long, but very, very interesting. What do you guys think? Any comments here?
That got extremely deep.
Well, I hope it came off as well researched, because I was up until 4 a.m. reading all of that.
Yeah.
Hey, anything worth looking into and trying to gain a better understanding on is, in my eyes, well worth it.
Yeah, we may not go into detail about Styx's
when you have a project like that going on, or any project for that matter, you got to have communication that works, not communication that's destructive.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We have to recognize that we are in a polarized world where people disagree on some basic fundamental things. Okay? Here's the thing. If you come up and say, I disagree with your basic fundamental things, you must be a bigot. Well, you must be a bigot because you don't agree with me. What makes you objectively right and me objectively wrong?
You have to kind of settle on some middle ground and leave all the exterior subjects exterior. Take them to the bar or down the street or something else, but not within the project itself.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's have a look at some comments here. We got 55 watching on Zatubies. And let's see. Don't be complicit in your own victimization. There you go. I'd rather keep my, source class. Let's see. I think we read some of those. Kind of sounds like don't hurt my feelings kind of gibberish to me. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Welcome to the internet. This is a place where people's feelings can get hurt. If you are too soft to and absorb some of that, then you probably need to get off the internet, which unfortunately is getting progressively harder. And it should, we should be able to get to the point where we can go extended periods of time without being on the internet. I would love to do that. Unfortunately, every bit of my work requires me to be on the internet. So I guess I take a mostly day off on Sundays, but that's about it. It's amazing how fast adults can revert to children so fast. Yep. There you go. A picture explains it all. They banned the original developer. I believe they did. I heard that. I think that's correct. You conclude not sharing code is moral. I don't care that you don't. I just can't connect the logic that Jesus would be closed source. Well, it's kind of like the same way, I guess, that all these Bible translations are copyrighted. I think it's the word of God. Maybe he should have the final say. There are a couple that are public domain. I will say that. And that's not because of they're old. Like King James is public domain. But there's actually 2 I know of off the top that are public domain. Those are Net and the World English Bible. There's probably more out there, which I did read. I think we were having that discussion on a news show a few months ago. I did read it. I read all of it, cover to cover. It was very good, actually. Let's see. So the generation believes human behavior should be. Let's see. So black pill on everything at this point. Will anything not get ruined? I don't know. There's some things, Game engines are woke. Take it as dumb, which only makes fact turned into such a blank storm funnier. Yep, absolutely. God was no way a genius developer. OP was an obvious troll. Godot just couldn't pass up a chance to virtual signal. Yeah. Yep. No way genius developer. Yeah, I don't know anything about the developer. The original developer who posted what made Nat post what Nat posted. Open source, continue. I might have to write my own from scratch. I will not tolerate anything that disrespects the word of God. Okay, let's see. Project goes from run by adults to children in 4.2 seconds. Yep. Tweet would be fine to block. A lot of tweets were fine, though. Demonstrating here why I refuse to have Twitter. Hinged person? The bolts came out of that door and it's laying on the floor. There you go. Only use Twitter to look up art. Here you go. The Linux community continues to tolerate this madness. They will chase away the skilled programmers. Yeah, that is exactly my point here. This should be a learning lesson for all of us. Competent people develop products and then new people take over and make no positive developments. It's an odd trend these days. Yeah, that happens a lot, They get bought out for their profit, That's what the ed tech startup I worked with. Guy had a genius idea, hires a bunch of PhDs to make it happen. Company's bought out by Macmillan. They fired all the PhDs and brought in college flunkies for half the price. I'm not sure if things still working or profitable or what, but we had experienced 300% growth year after year for the 3 years. I think I worked for them 4 years before Macmillan laid us all off. Let's see. Let them figure out the hard way. If they claim to be open source, they should let everyone use it. They need to be taken down for false advertisements. Yep. That is why we should focus on software, not politics. Yep. Imagine being offended by a goofy game poking fun at furries. I know, right? Oh, boy.
Yeah,
any furries on here that can say your thoughts on the game? Let me know. I've only had minor roof damage. My shed got picked up leaning forward. It's got 2 trees that are going to need to come down the front yard. Oh, man. That sucks. I don't own an account with them and don't plan on it. Yep. Apparently Godot has something like 2,000 pending pull requests going back several years. Yeah. Can't touch the trees myself. They're near power and cable lines. Uh-oh. Not realize they're a donation service or something? No, they don't realize it. It's like another toxic Karen community, if you ask me. Basically more woke Karen shenanigans. Cannot separate their personal lives from work. That's the thing. We need to be able to separate that. If you guys can believe it, I know you won't believe this. I actually worked for a far left-wing activist organization at one point in time. Have the same views. I even had a transgender person. We had to, and here's the funny thing. On all the times we were on conference calls, I was the only person who consistently respected their nonsense pronouns. Only person. Our director constantly messed them up. Everybody else constantly messed them up. I am the only one that got them right 100% of the time. They went by they, them. Okay, fine. I don't care. And we had a good working relationship. I developed websites for this far left-leaning organization until they just insisted that I pay for union dues for a freelance union service. No, there's a reason I'm freelance. Pay me more. Like you're underpaying me by my rate and forcing me to take some of the income I'm making and pay a union now. I draw the line here. What's this union doing for me? I have lower rates with you than anyone else I'm working with. Oh boy. I've been hearing about this since last week. What's the aftermath? Also, code of conduct can suck. COC anyway, that's right. Oh boy. People say Juan and Remy don't let devs improve the engine, all to promote their own companies. They move money to, and devs are fed up of the core team slowly. Any progress waiting for Godot, usually 2 years. Yeah, I'd be curious to see how that new one goes. The redo. All this junk will lead to a fork of the game engine. Yeah, thousands of them, apparently. Let's see.
It isn't even really a AAA game engine.
Not that I know of. But hey, it's a FOSS game engine, so what do you want, right?
It's not a Focus game engine or an Unreal or any of that stuff that makes AAA games.
Yeah, I don't even know what any of that means.
Unreal is a game engine.
Yeah, I know these are all game engines. Like I said, I know a lot of the software and the lingo in the background. I just don't necessarily know what all the lingo means. Kind of like pass interference, me and my love for football. I stepped into the house the other day and buddy's watching football and he's like, pass interference. I said, what exactly is a pass interference? Aren't you supposed to interfere with them passing? So he explains it to me how it works. I was like, okay, that makes sense. You're not allowed to touch the person itself until he has the ball. But you're allowed to bat the ball. Okay, I was say, as long as you're allowed to do something, but you just can't tackle the guy before he has the ball. All right. I own my own business, and yes, I never talk religion or politics. Why lose half your clients? Yeah, that's the thing, right? That's the thing. People start using their own engines again. Yeah, well, maybe. There's a risk in using other game engines, of course.
Well, most of the AAA game engines are made because the AAA games they're actually more like a movie that you are actually a character in than, they're very complicated.
What are some of the AAA game engines?
I know Unreal is, Focus is, PlayStation has one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I think my brother does development
out there.
Yeah, I think my brother does development in Unreal, I think.
Yeah, they're on Unreal 5 now.
Yeah.
But the games are mainly developed in the beginning for the consoles. We get them to play on PC after they've sucked all the money out of the game to sell it to people that play consoles, and then they'll port it to PC.
Yeah.
Games that we get on PC are already 3-4 years old.
Yeah. Amos says you've looked tired in videos lately. I've been sick lately, actually, so that's why.
Yeah, desktop with these games is almost kind of like an afterthought in a lot of instances.
All right, let's see. We got 16 over on Odyssey.
The Commodore says Nintendo has their own game engine, and I assume Sony does too for their stuff.
Makes sense.
For their PlayStation.
Yeah.
All right, Cynical Leftist is jumping in, just briefly popping in here, point out that the woke mob is funded by capitalist investors, while right-wing chud fellates the same right-wing investors. Not necessarily, actually. If you're actually watching what's going on right now, particularly in Democratic fundraising, you'll notice that almost all of the big, heavy financial donations are actually coming from capitalists towards the leftists. In fact, they're trying to make a scandal of Elon Musk donating to right-wing causes. So, take a wild guess who's going to win the long run. Righties or ideological morons who can only dump gasoline on their own head. I completely disagree with you. If you're want to talk about ideological morons, talk about people who don't even know if they're boys or girls by what's dangling between their legs. That's an ideological moron. Okay, I'm sorry, but right-wing people have a firmer grasp of reality more often than not. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. We can agree to disagree, though. I should block him just in the spirit right now. Kidding. Elon may mean well, but X is still a cesspool. Well, it's a lot better than it was before he bought it.
Godot can also be pronounced Godot.
Yeah. Well, it's like has like French origins or something like that, I think. Tim Berners-Lee had a project
so it's
for
more spelled like Home Depot, the depot part.
Yeah. That might be it. Tim Berners-Lee had a project for decentralizing a decade ago. Yeah, I looked at that once, and it was like, create an account here. Oh, so I'm creating a centralized account for a decentralized web? Gotcha. Okay, we got 24 over on Rumble. Whole topic is tiresome. Yeah, pretty much, but it's a good example to look at to say, a good example to look at for saying the potentials that could happen in the Linux community who adopts the same type of code of conduct. Copying the Bible doesn't sound like sharing the word. I know, right? What's even funnier is in the NIV translation specifically, if you're writing a book, you are only allowed to use the text from the NIV as the current online edition stands. So you have to verify the quotes you're using with the official online source, because if they slightly tweak it, they want your book up to date with all of the slightest tweaks, which is very fascinating. Anyway, let's see. Years old, not PC at all. If their pronouns are not connected with their birth sex, they will get their frittings hurt. All right. Raylib developed by a Spanish developer. Godot. Yeah, it's Godot. I'm just glad I watched some videos on it so I didn't make a fool of myself calling it Godot.
Godot, go.
All right. Hey, man, I like the old GoBots. What about the Godots? Cross reminds us the NIV is a child of the devil. It depends if you like it or not. It's not a horrible translation. It's certainly not the best, but I've read worse. I have probably read about 100 Bible translations. I have read far worse than the NIV. Try reading the CEB sometime. That's exciting. Comically exciting Bibles, what we started calling it. As one man sharpens, what's it? As iron sharpens iron, one man's face sharpens another. Like, what?
Ow.
What the hell are you talking about? Oh, we had a lot of fun reading that one, looking at individual funny verses. I wish I still had some of those, because I got rid of, like, I'll read them, and if they're not, if they're that crazy, eventually I'll just, like, get rid of them, because I just don't have room for hundreds of Bibles floating around.
Where do you take them?
I'll put them in, like community libraries or things like that. So
I got like boxes. I probably got about 12 Bibles laying around here, and I only have one. I only got one that I use.
Yeah. You could donate them to a library or a church, or like I said, I sprinkled them throughout community libraries where I saw them. Or you can just give them out to people as you're out and about. But if you're not out and about these days, that doesn't.
No, I don't get around that much.
Yeah. Let's see. Reading the NLT lately. That's not horrible. NLT is one of the only of the gender inclusive ones that I can tolerate. That and the NCV, although they are comical. The NCV specifically, you get into like Ezekiel, where there's a specific phrase, the Son of Man, which means a very specific thing in Scripture. It's a title for Christ. And Ezekiel is called the Son of Man several times as a foreshadowing of that. Well, in the gender inclusive ones, like the NCV, they translate it human being. And so it's human being. And it's a list of verses that all start with Son of Man. Son of Man, Son of Man, Son of Man, Son of Man, Son of Man. It's like, Son of Man, do this. Son of Man, do that. Son of Man, go over here. Son of Man, go over there. So it translates in the NCV, human being, do this. Human being, do that. Human being, go here. Human being, go there. It's like, no, I don't know, man. I don't know.
There's some meaning lost in it when you go with
and that's the problem, because
the human being one.
That's the problem.
Son of Man is a different term than human being.
And that's the important part, because Son of Man is the specific title of Christ, indicating that he is the seed of Eve, who is the Redeemer of the world. And that is what was being foreshadowed in Ezekiel. And when you mistranslate it by saying human being, human being, human being, you're completely changing the meaning and the title and the power of the messiahship of Christ. And that's a problem. But here's the thing. I study Bible translations and things like that. I can respect the other things the NCV does well. Particularly, it's very easy to read. And I'd rather hand somebody a very easy Bible to read than one that has every bit of nuance perfect that they can't. Because we have to understand that. No, the King James translation is not 100% correct. There are a number of errors in it.
It's a very hard read too.
Yeah, and if you read the original preface to the book, they say that it's not the best translation. It was not done with the best of the manuscripts. It actually contributed to a change in the Erasmus text. One of the lines in the Erasmus text was wasn't even anywhere in, like, it's not in any Alexandrian texts, but it's not even in any of the Byzantine texts either, until after King James happened, and they crammed it into the Erasmus text, which, by the way, postdates the King James original translation by 2 years. So, gotta get your history right when you kind of want to know the Bible translations. But the King James is fine. It's a fine translation. I'm not saying you shouldn't use it. I'm just saying there are some people that have tried to read it and get completely confused and lost in their faith and can't understand it. And for those people, use something that's easier to understand.
You have to be able to understand and focus on Old English sayings and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of the language has changed. The meanings of the words have changed and things like that. No, Night of Light, I do have a copy of the original 1611, and I have read it, and I have read it several times. Let's see. I have NIV from 98. That's the 85. So if you have one from 98, it's the NIV 85 translation. If you had a new one, it would not be the NIV current for sure. Yeah, the newer ones, I think the current copyright year is it 2011, I think. Although they have done some minor tweaks since changing that copyright date. Anyway, we're going to wrap that up here. Of course, if you want to continue all this Christian discussion, I am discussing the second division in Zechariah tonight over on the Our Walk in Christ channel. Let me find you the link for that. But that is going to be Zechariah chapter 1, verses 18 through 21. So if you want to follow up over there, that'll be at 9 o'clock tonight. That is in 40 minutes. I'll go ahead and post the link to that here. And let me grab the Rumble version for you folks on Rumble. Give me just a second to find that. So it's going to go live on those two at 9, and then it'll make its way over to Odyssey soon. There is that one. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with this fun and crazy topic, and we will see you guys tomorrow, 8 o'clock for the weekly news roundup.